Ah, the magic of YouTube. I've got like 5, 6 graphic novels to record, and the best part about this is I record a whole batch at a time and then I upload them once a day. To you, you're just getting this right now. But to me, I could have recorded this a week ago, 2 weeks ago. You have no idea, and that's the beauty of it. Hey everybody, we're back. John Delarose here, delarose.com. That's DELARROZ.com. I've got the link to my newsletter in the description below, and you can sign up there and get a free graphic novel, which you should do, and start reading my graphic novels. They're awesome. All right, speaking of pretty awesome, X-Men 2099 is a book I overlooked back in the day. When I was a kid, I picked up Spider-Man 2099. I was a big Spider-Man guy, so if it said Spider-Man on it, I bought it. But I wasn't really all that into the X-Men, and honestly, it didn't look all that compelling to me because the character designs are just kind of ugly and weird, and they're not standoutish. Like, they're not memorable. Like, this kind of looks like a, I don't know, already an X-Men character, but blanded generic. This kind of looks like Gambit, but Ghost Rider-y, I guess. This looks like Psylocke a little bit. This looks like a, edgy, what's his name? The Steel guy. I can't remember. You blank on these words at this point. I'm not a huge X-Men fan. There's Storm 2, and then there's Creepy Demon Thing. So you look at this and you're like, I didn't pick it up at the time. But as I got into this, and the reason I read this is because I've actually read every collected edition of the old 2099 stuff so far. They came out with these 2099 books for a while. They did Spider-Man 1 through 5. 5 is labeled something a little different, which is almost complete for the series. They did X-Men Volume 1, and that's it. Now, there was a Punisher 2099, Doom 2099, Ravage 2099, 2009 Unlimited at the time. Doom 2099 got a collection of the Warren Ellis stuff towards the end of the run, which was very good too. So I was like, geez, I better finish everything I can of this. So I picked this up, bargain basement discount. I think I got this for $5. Pretty great. And originally these covers had like holographic whatever's to it. But the long story short of this is that there's this like mutant installation like out in the desert in Las Vegas, and there's this guy named Xian or Xian, X-I''AN, who's gathering all these mutants to form a new X-Men because they're like back in the day the X-Men all disappeared and were presumed killed in some like mutant apocalypse type of deal, and now he's trying to get the band back together later in the way that he's doing things. It's a pretty neat concept, and it starts with a guy who's like kind of confused and he doesn't know what's going on, and we get introduced to all these characters up front as they're gathering. The writer is John Francis Moore, who I'm actually not familiar with. I've never read his work, and actually, usually look these people up after a while, but I didn't for this. This is my only work of his I've read. And Ron Lim as pencils, that made me happy because he's been on Silver Surfer and a lot of stuff. Adam Kubert inked this, which is neat. So you got an all-star team. And actually, beyond the silly 90s designs, I like that they kind of kept classic panel layouts, that they didn't go for this like really edgy image look for the most part. I kind of like Ron Lim's art in that regard. It's kind of the last of the Marvel House style in there. And with Adam Kubert's inks, everything's really clean and good and interesting. There's like this corporation, and everything's run by corporations in this universe, that is kind of trying to hunt the mutants down in the first couple episodes. There's a guy there's a bunch of intrigue in the corporation, and they show how evil they are. The sister really just wants power. Hydra really just wants power. They're betraying each other, killing their parents. It's pretty gruesome, dark stuff. But the X-Men are here and doing their thing. And you see we get this like Psy Bones power going on. They're very, very weird stuff. But there's a speedster. There's why am I blanking on this name still? The Russian guy who turns into steel. Everybody's gonna leave comments and make fun of me for this, but I can't for the life of me remember that name. And I've read enough X-Men comics where that's absolutely silly. Oh well. So here they are. Of course, they do the double page pinup thing. And so this corporate storyline goes on for the first couple issues. We've got Bloodhawk here. This is the demon guy. And he actually really doesn't join the team. He kind of is a mysterious enigma out on the side, and we've got this gal who's Mr. Fantastic, only not. So, like I said, they're just kind of copycat characters for the most part, but it makes sense because it's like a 2099 line. By the time I got into it and actually got to learn like the character relationships and all that, there was actually pretty good drama between characters, pretty good intrigue, pretty good like sort of X-family feel to it, for lack of a better term, and it was enjoyable. I actually really liked reading this. I thought the pacing was good. There was a little over-the-top stuff and a little bit of 90s bad guys are super bad. We're just so bad. We're badder than bad, like kind of mentality to it. But overall, the X-Men are trying to do the right thing as heroes. They're trying to stay together. They're trying to kind of figure out their past and learn what happened to the old X-Men and try to regroup and reform that, which is really cool. I like that sort of, we've lost our heritage and we have to find it again, base storyline going through this. And now we're into the next story, and there's this like group that tries to capture them and siphon off their powers. These are the badder than bad guys, as I mentioned. Very 90s design on this character. It's kind of silly, but I like the silly. Now, what's interesting is Alchemax is the big Spider-Man 2099 corporate villain here, and we show one of our characters, and I don't remember the names. I mean, it's just, like I said, they were just not memorable on that level. Getting into that, the Mr. Fantastic gal died in the third issue. They did amazing. They went 3 issues in, and they're like, one of the X-Men dies in this issue. It's like, wow, it's only issue 3. Give us time to care about them. But they didn't, because it's the 90s. This is another neat 90s design of this character who's really in charge of the siphoning off of their blood power and all that. But that Alchemax thing ties into a bigger event, and they actually get into this crossover event pretty shortly here, which they give you a synopsis of. The complete one is in the Spider-Man 2099. I think it's volume 3, somewhere in there. Or maybe it's volume 2. But you can read pretty much the complete event in there, and I did. So if you want to go and read the event, that's actually a good way to do it rather than going in here. You can figure out what issue it is. Just Google it. But as it is, standing on its own, this really started from a, like, what the heck is going on? If you were reading this month to month, you would have no idea what's going on right here. They start in a different city. They're in the middle of a part 3 of something, and it really did not lead up to it from here. I mean, they kind of referenced it in the background, but, I mean, talk about confusing. This is how you get people stopping reading comics. But basically, these Asgardians are there, but it turns out they're actually clones that are superpowered, made by this corporation, and everybody's trying to stop them from creating this like Asgard city in the sky, which is for some reason like polluting everything down below, and they do that, and that's the basic gist of the story. This is eminently skippable for the rest of the X-Men stuff. Honestly, like I said, read the event if you're interested in the event and the Spider-Man stuff. It's not even worth reading. It doesn't develop any characters of the X-Men in here or anything. It's pointless. We get a new villain group called the Freak Show as the X-Men are going out and investigating things. And it turns out there's this old character who they thought died, and ends up she got these degenerates from the corporation who are kind of cast out, who have powers, and is kind of guiding them. And she gives the X-Men some information after a fight, because they have their superhero fight where they realize they're all actually on the same team by the end of it, just like often happens. And she, I think that actually more happens than in the next issue. They go find the Freak Show here. Skullfire, yeah, that's so 90s, right? You know him as Tim. Fun stuff. I really liked it, honestly, as much as I'm making fun of it. This one has Jimmy Palmiotti inking it, so wow, just superstar inkers here, who actually do a lot of their own penciling work. It's what an elite team they really put on this book. But they're trying to find their heritage past, basically, and so this is the old lady who used to run like this mutant revolution back in the day, and she's kind of in hiding now, and she wasn't expecting anybody to find them. She calls herself Hurricane, and it goes over her past a little bit, and they go off trying to find the last vestiges of the X-Men. And what's happening here? Do we have Archangel in the sky? Oh my gosh! And that's what it looks like. So it turns out that this one character is making like intense holograms of the old X-Men, so we actually get to see them. And he's got some information on them. And him and the one gal, gosh, I wish I remembered the names through this, but I don't. Go through, and they end up getting captured by this like psychic dude who like has psychically manipulated and tried to recreate the old X-Men, but they're kind of mutated and screwed up. And he's adding the real mutants to his list of team. So it turns out these fake X-Men are, you know, sort of clone type things that are degenerating, and something that's used in the 90s quite a bit as a storyline. And he wants to take our new X-Men as his sort of slaves instead. Brand X is a great title here. And we got a different, yet another different inker here. James Sanders III, who I'm not familiar with. Actually, his inking might be the cleanest out of all of it. I love these. These are very 90s too. There's so much 90s stuff. Rob Liefeld really loved to use these sort of like weird discs with weird things on arms and legs to hold people captive. And so you see them in weird different positions. I have no idea why he's like sideways. But it's funny looking. Oh man. So the other X-Men kind of degenerate, and then the main guy, Zien, whatever, has like a mental battle with this character here to regain control of their minds and kind of takes him down. We also get some backstory. There's like this old Zien or new Zien, and the old one's kind of a bad guy, and he's like reformed now, but he's really locked up in his own head. And he gets out at the end of this. Bum, bum, bum. And he's now, you could tell by his grin that he's bad guy, Zien. And that's the end of the deal. So they've set up quite a bit in here. It's actually a pretty interesting book. I maybe spent a little too much time reviewing this for what it is, but there's a lot of plot in here, and it was worth reading because of that. Very good development. The characters change. They really do develop, unlike the sort of, you know, standard stable of Marvel characters. After a while, they kind of don't develop. So it's refreshing to kind of read this. And it's really good. Like I said, I don't really remember the characters' names very well because they're just so similar to the other ones. And I just can't, I can't even remember the one X-Men's name that this guy copies. But it is fun overall. And so I enjoyed it. I call this like maybe a 7.5 out of 10. The dialogue gets a little long at points, I would say. And it does get a little silly. Some of the tropes that they use, the 90s tropes, but you know, it's good comic fun. You can't ask for more. And if you can find this real cheap in your bargain bins, why not? Just grab it. I hope they do more because, like, you know, I really want to read complete runs so I can kind of see the full story. And unfortunately, this seems like it's just getting started and just popping off. All right, hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys soon.